This was the song as the Raven Calls from the album Gemini, Worlds of Eternal Creation, and I have here the main man from the band Tamerlan. It's Timur. Hello, Timur. Could you please introduce Tamer to the listeners?
Hello. Well, Tamerlan is my personal project, which began in the year 2005, where I started gathering my own ideas, and when I wanted to present my visions of the world in the shape of the music. So actually the first demo was recorded in the year 2006 in March, and that particular day I consider to be the first day of Tamerlan project. And until today I have already that demo that I mentioned. I have the first EP called Full Moon Festival, which was released by the Serbian label Dark Revolution and their division Insurrection. Later, the first album called The Anti-Existence was released for the same label. Then in the year 2009, the second album was released for the German Look Wartier 23. It's the Gemini Worlds of Eternal Creation, that the song you played from that album right now. And also, right now I have a new EP, Kuyumbaba, ready, and some other interesting plans for the future.
What does Tamerlan mean? I mean, it sounds a little bit exotic for us Europeans.
Tamerlan was one of the biggest war leaders in the history. He came from Uzbekistan, and actually his name means Timur Lenk, and when I was born I was given his name, Timur. So when I named the project, I didn't have any second thoughts, and Tamerlan was the only logical name that I could use for the music that I make.
You are from Uzbekistan by birth, am I right?
Actually, I am half from Uzbekistan and half from Russia, from Siberia, but somehow I consider Siberia to be closer to me and more of a home, probably because I was born there. And my father is from Uzbekistan and my mother is from Russia. But then again, I live in Serbia here, so yeah, you have you have bands of several people that come from one country, and you have one-man project such as this that comes from 3 countries.
From many countries in your case. Does in your music from Tamerlan, is there any kind of native Uzbekistan melodies in it? Do you use some native instruments for your music from Uzbekistan?
Well, regarding the melodies themselves, I don't set any boundaries to myself, so I use all those melodies and all those sounds that I like, and of course I am also, among other things, influenced by melodies from Uzbekistan, by melodies from Russia, ancient Slavic melodies, and also some music from any other part of the world. That I listen to some folk traditional music. And the second part of the question, about the instruments. Actually, from those exotic instruments, I use lutes. I had an opportunity to use oud, which is the Asian version of lute. Actually, that's the first lute-like instrument. And also, I had an opportunity to use several other instruments like saz, for example. But the problem is that at the moment I don't have many of those instruments. I used to borrow them from some people, from some ensembles that played similar music. I used a lot of these instruments for my first album, for The Anti-Existence, but now since I have mostly guitars, classical acoustic guitars and Renaissance lute, I play them sometimes when needed in that folk-like style. In the style, how would I, for example, play oud if I had it?
So, is there then any thing different between like you said, the first part of the music from Tamerlan and now the second part of the music from Tamerlan, or is it still the same?
Well, actually, when I started the music, it sounded much different than it sounds now. In my demo era, I didn't use much of the real instruments. The first music I made, like on this first demo, on the EP Full Moon Festival, and on the good part of the Anti-Existence album, the music sounded more in the vein of traditional dark ambient and ethereal music, and it was mostly keyboard-based. But then again, I have studied classical guitar for a long time in music school, and that's why I decided to incorporate it a little bit more of that knowledge, of the technical knowledge, that is. And since then, I've used more and more real instruments and used more rhythms. Overall, the music now sounds much more energetic and more folk-like and ritualistic, I dare to say, than the first, I would call it era or something like that, which sounded much more meditative and much more ethereal than now.
What can you tell about the latest release from your project?
The latest release is the EP called Kuyumbaba. It is also released through the German label Quartier 23, and this is basically, it's not my personal composition. It's a classical guitar suite written by Carlo Domeniconi, and this, back in the day when I was in music school, this was my most favorite piece on a classical guitar, and I consider it to be probably the best classical guitar composition ever written. During the time when I played it, a lot of good things happened to me, and somehow I myself started getting the musical independence from the music schools, from all their dogmas and everything. So now in March this year, it was official 5 years of existence of Tamerlan as a project. So I decided to celebrate it and to make a tribute to all that, to my childhood, to that period when I started all that, by recording that particular piece. And also, one more interesting thing about that EP is, it consists of the suite Kuyumbaba, all 4 movements, and then there are 3 remixes of the movements. First one is done by the wonderful British project Acoustic Timbre Frequency, and the second one was my own personal remix of the 3rd movement, and the 4th one was remixed by the dark ambient project Imundus from Norway.
What does the name mean from your latest release?
You mean Kuyumbaba?
Yes.
Well, it means, actually it's a Turkish, it's based on Turkish melodies. The guitarist himself, the author of the composition, Carlo Domeniconi, he was living in Turkey for some time, and he was fascinated by all their culture and their music, and he based that suite on their traditional melodies. And Kuyumbaba, well, it can mean shepherd, as far as I know, but on the other hand, I've heard a lot of other interpretations of this word that don't mean shepherd, but like the ghost or something like that.